have an advanced speech coming up. And I just want to make sure before I introduce Leo that Joshua knows the timing sequence, 7,
8 to 10,
okay,
8 to 12.
Great. Leo Chavez, a confident communicator who's working on his advanced program, is giving speech number 1 from the Persuasive Speaker's Manual. The objective of Leo's speech is to teach a sales process and role play with one other Toastmaster in a sales transaction. Leo has 8 years of sales experience. He was number 1 in sales for a loan modification company. He is currently a member of a prestigious organization called Sales Mastery for the past year. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Leo Chavez.
Earlier, I think she agreed with Leanne. They both said that sales is for someone that's very attractive, and I think that's why I've been very successful. About a month ago, a movie came out, American Sniper, and I like action-packed thrillers, so I really wanted to see the movie. However, my wife, she likes romantic comedies. And one day after a long day of work, we decided, it was a Friday, we decided we're going to go to a restaurant and a movie. But that was the dilemma. We started thinking about, okay, what are we going to watch tonight? And I wanted to convince her to see American Sniper, but she had the other movie in mind. It was a romantic comedy. So what do you do in these circumstances when you want to do something, but somebody else wants to do something else? Instinctively, what you start doing is you start selling them. You start to try to convince them, you try to start to persuade them, and you try to start selling them on your idea or the action that you want them to take. So I started saying things like, it's nominated for 5 Academy Awards, it's based on a true story, but I'm not as good as a salesperson as my wife is. She has this line that gets me over all the time. I can't overcome it. And so she looks at me and she says, well, if we don't watch the movie, I don't think you're going to get any tonight. You see, I like back massages, right? I like back massages. So I really wanted to get a back massage that night. So we went off to see the romantic comedy movie. What I wanted to illustrate when I said that is that you're in a sales, there's many situations where you're in sales. Not necessarily because you're trying to sell a product or a service, doesn't mean that you're not in sales. All the time, even right here in Toastmasters, if we have a new guest coming by, we have to sell him or her on why they should join our club instead of all the many other clubs that are out there in the valley. Now, what I want to do is get started on those. I have 5 keys of salesmanship that I've come up throughout, arguably, my whole life of sales experience. Now, what I want to do is start with number 1. And number 1 is you have to believe in what you're selling, or what you're trying to convince or persuade the other person to do. Because if you don't, it's kind of like lying. You have to have integrity in whatever it is that you're trying to sell. You have to do it honestly. I used to sell Sprint phones in the Burbank Mall, and I felt kind of bad because I would try to convince people to get on Sprint when I had T-Mobile. So I kind of felt uneasy. So when they would tell me, okay, when I see your phone, I would say I left it in the car. That's number 1. Number 2 is credibility. Now, when I say credibility, there's 2 things that I have in mind. And number 1, or number 2, is appearance. You have to look the part. So if you're a professional, if you're in business, if you're an investor, financial planner, real estate, if you're an attorney, you have to look the part. You can't be wearing jeans and a shirt and come across as someone credible. Also, you have to have third-party material. You could have like an article from a different entity that says good things about your company or service. Number 3, building rapport with your client, with your prospective client. That, you have to have that confidence, you have to earn their trust before you make a sell. Because if you don't get that first, then most likely you're not going to end up closing that day, meaning selling or closing a transaction. And the way that you could do this is by asking open-ended questions. You could ask why, how, and what to elicit information that later on you can use to customize or find the best product or service for their particular situation. Number 4 is almost the antithesis of number 3, because number 3, you want to elicit information. You don't want just a yes or no response. Number 4 is gaining yes momentum. It's important throughout your presentation, or if you have a sales pitch or you're trying to sell something, that you get them to say yes throughout your presentation. Because psychologists say that towards the end, when you're trying to ask for that check so that they can move forward with the sell, they feel uneasy saying no to you if all along they've been saying yes, yes, yes. And one way that you could do that is by asking questions that end with, wouldn't you agree? Doesn't that make sense? And I want to illustrate that with Matthew. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, all right.
Wouldn't you agree that Toastmasters 6178 is the best club to join?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Kathleen, doesn't it make sense for you to join a public speaking class if that's something that you have trouble with?
Absolutely.
Okay. You see, so there's a way that you could structure your questions to get a yes, and you do that throughout your presentation. And number 5, last but not least, closing. Closing means getting them to sign on the dotted line or the paperwork, or going forward with the sale, asking for the check. The method that I use is the 2 options. Regardless of the option that you give them, or regardless of the option that they choose, means that they're still going to go forward. So let's say you're a business owner, or and you have clientele. Maybe you own, let's say, a strip club or something like that. So you may want to ask the person, do you want the one in blue bikini or in the red bikini? Either way, they're going to move forward with, you know what I'm talking about. Elaborate? You can do it for anything. It's even in Toastmasters. Let's say you really want somebody to join Toastmasters. So you could give them the option, do you want to join our Monday night Toastmasters or our Thursday? Either way, they're going to move forward with coming to Toastmasters like you want them to. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a little role play with a fellow Toastmaster that has, which I'm grateful for. She volunteered for helping me out in this little role play process that we're going to do. So if you can please help me welcome Vivian. What's going to happen right now is she's going to come in because she saw a sign that says income protection. Now, what I'm going to be selling is life insurance. I don't know if you guys have any idea of what that is or how it works, but if you need more information, I could talk to you about that later on after the meeting.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Vivian.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I
How
saw
are
your
you?
sign on the door about
Oh.
income protection.
Yeah, income protection. So you were just walking around here?
Yeah,
What brings you to the area here in Sherman Oaks?
I moved away into hot Woodland Hills, and I had to come for a little break from the heat. And I just decided to get a Starbucks and walk. And you're new to the area, and I'm like, ooh, income protection. Yeah, I need that, because I have a family. And
It's really hot outside. Lately, it's just been very, very hot, and I think it's just getting worse.
yeah, the barrel was like a never-ending summer.
Yeah, definitely. So you like coffee? Starbucks next door?
Yeah, I prefer Coffee Bean, but there's more Starbucks than there are Coffee Beans.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So let me talk to you about income protection.
Okay.
Have you heard of life insurance
Yeah.
before? Okay, that's what it is. Income protection is another word for life insurance.
Okay.
Or so God forbid something happened to you or your kid, to you, you want to make sure that if you have kids or if you have a family, that they're going to be well taken care of. Is that important for you?
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
Don't you think it makes sense to have something in place if God forbid something like that does happen?
Yes, it's been on my mind quite a bit lately, yes, definitely.
Now, who do you have your life insurance with?
Oh, I don't have any right now.
Oh.
I just, always put that stuff off. So I think it's time I kind of addressed it.
Yeah, there's usually 3 reasons why people, like a responsible person like yourself that has family, why they don't have life insurance. It's either because they didn't know where to go, they thought it was too expensive, or they just didn't have any clue about it. Obviously, some of those reasons aren't, you really do think that it's responsible of you to provide financial support for your family. So you said it was probably because it's expensive?
That's one of the reasons, you think of death and you don't want to think about that stuff, but yeah, and you hear it's expensive, insurance is expensive, my car insurance is expensive, my homeowners, why wouldn't life insurance be expensive?
Exactly, no, that makes sense. Now Vivian, if I could show you an affordable plan that you could afford, so you can make sure and have that peace of mind that your family's going to take care of if something happens, would that be something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, perfect. Now, right now, what we have, and just so I could go over some plans with you, we have a $60 plan or an $80 plan. Which one is better for you?
Is that a month? Is that every quarter?
It's every month.
Every month, okay. I think I can do 80.
Okay, great. So let's go over and do the paperwork.
Okay, great.
Let's give it a hand stop. Great job. Now, it's important. There's a reason why I structured 1 through 5, and number 1 is by far the most important one. Earlier, and Joshua is my witness, that I got a lease. It was a Hyundai car. It was a Elantra, and he saw it. I showed it off to him. When I was sitting down, my wife and I, the salesperson told us that, and this is the first time I purchased a lease, so I don't know how it works. We gave $1,500 down, and they told us that at the end of the contract that we could get our money back if we wanted to, or we could use it to apply on a new lease. However, when we were doing the financing, I was talking to the finance company, and I started talking to other people in the company, and they started to give me different answers all the time. They were very inconsistent. Turns out that I couldn't get that $1,500 at the end of the lease. So we pulled out. I got my $1,500 back. I did use the Hyundai for about 2 to 3 weeks. I turned it back in, and the transaction was canceled. And the reason why I canceled it is because it has to do with integrity and being honest about what you're doing. If you're gonna do something, do it honestly. Don't lie. They straight out lied to us that we were able to get that. As a matter of fact, the reason why I was able to return the car without any issues is because they were being recorded when we did the sales transaction.
Wow.
Now, I hope you learned a few things here tonight with my presentation about salesmanship. But above all, I hope that you know that a synonym of convincing people and persuasion is selling people. Mr. Toast.